Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching Top 10's Net, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 weirdest cities from around the world. While most of the time we only hear about the world's most important cities or those with the most breathtaking architecture, there are many quirky and bizarre cities hiding in spots you wouldn't ever imagine. Some of these cities have reached their situation organically, ending up in the most ridiculous of predicaments with little idea of any way out. Others were the ridiculous ambitious dreams of people or governments who saw it fit to do something beyond what most people would consider normal or necessary. For your enjoyment, in this video we're looking at 10 of the weirdest cities in the entire world. Number 10. The small island city being overrun by rabbits. The city of Langley on Whidbey Island, which is part of Washington state, has a very unique and adorable problem on their hands. It all started back in 2001 when a bunch of rabbits got loose from a fair. At first, nobody expected much to happen, but then the rabbits started breeding like, well, rabbits. Before long, the citizens had a very ridiculous problem on their hands, with the little critters running amok and happily eating from people's vegetable gardens. Part of the reason they were able to thrive so easily is because it was a small island without a lot of natural predators for the rabbits. While some are concerned about the growing problem, with the rabbits now numbering in the thousands and that the number is likely to increase, most people are against the wholesale city-sanctioned slaughter of the rabbits. City officials don't want to spend their days hunting down rabbits by the bushel, and many of the citizens actually find them adorable and would prefer to exploit it at least a little bit for tourism. Still, the city is not entirely okay with the issue and has considered bringing in more natural predators to thin them out. Of course, as we all know, that doesn't always work so well and may only add more problems. Number 9. The floating city that doubles as an oil rig. The city of Neftchyari is a gigantic floating city in the Caspian Sea that has acted as a huge oil operation for many decades. It was officially property of Azerbaijan and was built by the Soviets back at the height of their power. The city isn't incredibly far from the land, but it is the most massive city in the sea that has ever been built. It was a testament to Soviet engineering at its most ambitious. It was built on the spot after the Russians discovered incredible oil reserves in the area, after hearing legends from history that oil would often bubble up in the water near that area. The city still stands today and is being used to gain oil. However, the days of this incredible construction, they're numbered. Before too many years, the area will be dried up, and even before then, the city may not be able to operate for too much longer. The reason for this is because the city is starting to fall apart. While it once boasted, among other amenities, its own park with trees and soil imported from the mainland, as well as its own soccer pitch, movie theatre, library, gardens for fresh food, and more, it is now a shadow of its former glory. The massive floating city has been ravaged by floods and the deterioration of time, and many of the roads and apartments are submerged. This, of course, means that the workforce is much smaller than before. While some people still find it to be a desirable job because of the high pay, the city itself may not be around for much longer. Number 8. The highest altitude city in the world. La Rinconada is a city in Peru known for being the highest altitude city in the world and practically being a country unto itself because of how different people live there. There is no running water and no sewage 3 miles up, where the people of this city scratch out a very difficult living. The men spend all day in the mines hoping they will be able to make some real riches one day, and many of the women also spend all day breaking rocks to look for gold. In addition to this, their children are often enlisted in helping with this task. And unlike most places in the world, there isn't really an expectation about going to school, so many kids just help their parents wherever they are needed. This means most children do not get an education and also end up working in the mines, hoping they will be able to get lucky and strike it rich somehow, someday. There are also no laws, and well, there wouldn't be any police to enforce them if there were. While it is technically in Peru, it's really a place all on its own and doesn't follow the rules of the rest of the country. Number 7. The town in Brazil with a very high rate of twin births. There is a town in Brazil called Candido Godoy that has an abnormally high rate of twin births. The rate is a whopping 10% compared to 1% for the rest of Brazil. As you could imagine, it would be quite a strange experience to happen unknowingly across this town, and some might suddenly think they were transported into a horror movie. Clearly, some people came to a conclusion that they really were in a real-life horror movie, because many have speculated that it was the work of evil Nazi doctor Joseph Mengele, who was known for doing vile experiments on twins and trying to make the perfect Aryan baby. However, one scientist decided it was time to actually find out what was going on and ran DNA tests on many of the women in the village, and he found something a bit more banal. Essentially, she discovered that the women who were having twins had a similar gene, and she also found that there was a high rate of inbreeding in the area between all the German immigrants. In other words, only a couple of people with the gene arrived in the village at first, but with a lot of inbreeding, it quickly spread among the future women of the village, creating a creepy town full of way too many twins. Number 6. In Florida, there is a city with a huge concentration of sex offenders called Miracle Village. In Florida, there is a bizarre village that houses only sex offenders, and it is very strangely named Miracle Village. We should be quick to point out that while they have taken in people who were found with child pornography or people who had consensual sex with a minor, they do not take in people who have committed violent crimes or those who are diagnosed pedophiles. The last part seems kind of unclear, but they may actually be adhering strictly to whether it was diagnosed by an official psychiatrist. The village is run by Matthew 25 Ministries, a group specializing in helping people get back on their feet after getting out of prison. Richard Witherow, the minister who created the village, did so because of the restrictive sex offender laws when it comes to how close you can live to children. These were making it hard for non-violent offenders to get back on their feet and reintegrate into society. Some of the people there are more normal than you would ever imagine. One of them had to register as a sex offender after someone called the police on him because he was urinating in public while trying to be discreet. And a couple of others were there for having consensual sex with a 16-year-old girlfriend when they were 18 years old. It is certainly one of the strangest cities in the entire world. Number 5. Taos, New Mexico plays host to dozens of special Earth ships. Michael Reynolds is a man with a dream, and that dream is to create completely sustainable homes all over the world. And better yet, he's doing this using only junk. His creations he labels Earth ships, and he literally builds them using old cans, tires, and other junk he finds lying around. He is a former architect who decided that living needed to be more sustainable and started working on just one to start out. Since then, interest has blossomed all over the world, and in Taos, New Mexico alone, he has built a staggering 75 of his Earth ships. These structures are designed to use solar power, have their own food sources and sewage, and everything else is totally independent of anything else around them. Reynolds believes Earth ships are superior to modern architecture, as modern structures are often made with less care and rely on the city for everything. However, modern zoning has been his biggest problem, as New Mexico fought him over whether he could have a city with buildings that didn't rely on each other or any main central source. Despite many hurdles, he continues to build them all over the world to help others live a simple and sustainable lifestyle. Number 4. Aircraft carriers are their own gigantic floating cities with thousands of people. Aircraft carriers are absolutely massive, with the largest ones being able to carry crews of almost 5,000 people at a time. Because they are quite so gigantic and they must take care of so many people for months at sea, they pretty much have everything a floating city would need. You can even mail packages to them, although shipping is a bit high. However, what many people do not realize is that life on board an aircraft carrier isn't really anything like going on a cruise. However, unless you have a reason for going above deck, you're never going to be up top like you see in the movies. Most of the time you'll be below deck, assigned to some menial job, and after a long shift you'll go back to a very cramped bunk area. And that is the other rather big drawback of life on an aircraft carrier. On top of essentially no fresh air except for select personnel, there is also little to no privacy. Some sailors have even reported seeing bunkmates masturbating near them and just shrugged it off as humans doing what they need to do. Night and day blend together as people don't get to see the outside, and this can mess with some people psychologically, making it hard for them to cope with the situation. Number 3. Monkeys are overwhelming the city of Delhi in India. In the city of Delhi, they have a problem that you would expect to find only in some very strange, wacky comedy film. However, it is very much a reality for them, and a big problem that they apparently don't have any handle on at all. They are infested with wild monkeys. As the city expands and continues to encroach on their habitat, the monkeys started interacting more and more with the humans. Normally, this wouldn't lead to a full-on infestation. However, many of the Hindus in Delhi believe that the monkeys are sacred. For religious reasons, they feed the monkeys on Tuesdays and Saturdays. While public officials have tried to discourage this, it is hard to convince people to stop doing something when their religion requests them to do it. The monkeys are also an absolute terror, and it really isn't funny to the residents anymore. They steal candy from children and bread from people walking home. They gang up on people to steal food and will perform nasty bite attacks. To make matters even more sinister, a small girl and even a deputy mayor of Delhi have fallen from a terrace and died while being attacked by wild monkeys. Despite trapping over 13,000 monkeys in the last decade, the problem is still going strong, and if anything, it seems to be getting worse. However, while a couple of accidental deaths have happened, the monkeys are not homicidal freaks from a horror movie and aren't out for blood. They are only grabbing food because they have been trained by humans to think humans are bringing food for them. This is exacerbated by the fact that the humans keep confirming this. Number 2. Coober Pedy, the Australian city where most of the inhabitants in the city are underground. The town of Coober Pedy in Australia is a town that most people will not have heard of, but it is significant for multiple reasons. The first reason is that there are more opals in Coober Pedy than anywhere else in the world, accounting for roughly 70% of them found, as well as the best ones ever found. The second has to do with the general hellish living conditions of the area. The miners back in the day were dealing with ridiculously hot temperatures, and in order to live near the mines, they decided to get creative and build underground. The underground homes they built were called dugouts, and they helped maintain a consistently comfortable temperature. Over time, their enthusiasm for this type of architecture caused them to continue to expand their underground structures, and now there is an underground church, museum, half of a hotel, and many local businesses as well, which add a touristy flavour to the place. Today, over half the residents of Coober Pedy are living underground, and they've turned the town not just into a mining location, but also a tourist attraction. Number 1. The Spanish village of Juskar was painted blue for the Smurfs and became a permanent tourist spot. Several years ago, the Smurfs 3D came out to rather mediocre reviews. However, it did fairly well in terms of numbers, as the Smurfs have always had quite a dedicated fan base. Knowing the popularity of Smurfs, Sony had decided to try for a publicity stunt and find a town that would allow their whole town to be painted blue for the movie. The tiny 221-person town of Juskar in Spain accepted the offer with the knowledge that they would have it changed back free of charge afterwards. However, what the residents of Juskar decided to do after it was over was keep their village blue. You see, what they found is that after their village turned blue for the movie, they went from 300 tourists in a year to 80,000, which was a huge boon to their economy. They now host Smurf-themed events and also point out that they are known for their mushrooms and fungi, and that the Smurfs are as well, so the whole thing was a happy coincidence. For the residents of Juskar, being the Smurf village has given them a much brighter future than they ever imagined they would have as a city. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also over there on the right, a couple of other videos that you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.